Good morning and welcome to your macro outlook. It is Monday, March 31st, 2025. I'm Patrick Ceresna. Let's jump to our macro tenets. They're actually very valuable in this market environment because so much of what we're talking about here actually applies to where we are today in the market. So, number one, the most reliable way to forecast the future is simply to try to understand the present. Number two, the market is not made up of currencies, commodities, stocks, and bonds, but it's rather made up of investors, traders, and bankers making decisions about them. Number three, while markets will diverge for extended periods of time, over a long enough time period, mean reversion back to its fundamental value is a universal truth. And number four, over a short to intermediate time frame, prices are a function of liquidity rather than their fundamental values. And five, when everyone is in consensus, something different almost always happens. So let's talk about the economic news coming out this week. Now, first of all, we have to deal with today's JP Morgan Whale options roll. We'll talk about that. It's an important day for the quarterly rolling. But this week, starting on Tuesday, we'll have the ISM manufacturing numbers and the JOLTS job openings to get the first wave of jobs numbers. Wednesday in the morning, we'll get the ADP non-farm. And on Thursday, the ISM services PMIs, which are a little more important than the manufacturing one. But then all eyes will be obviously on Friday on the actual jobs numbers and the unemployment rate. And that in the afternoon, Fed Chairman Powell will also be speaking. So it is going to be an important week. The jobs numbers are going to be watched. Why is this important? Because jobs numbers are not really a leading indicator. They're more of at the same time, if not a slightly lagging indicator. So once we see any meaningful jump in unemployment rates, where then you're going to, that's almost like a certain recession confirmation tool. And so this is why there's going to be a lot of anxiety. Now, is it going to be a bad number? We don't know. I don't know. But if it is, the stock market is not going to take it well. And so this is why it's going to be really important to see how that develops. Now, all week we've been talking about this JP Morgan whale that on the S&P cash index, there's that 20 some odd billion dollars of notional option exposure that all expires today, which is basically putting on the dealers a huge amount of gamma, which will force them to sell into weakness. Now, this is contributed to Friday's big down day, but we find ourselves this morning down 54 points in the pre-market at the time that I'm recording this. And that actually is going to spur a breakdown of the S&P below that trigger point, which is basically going to force dealers to be selling even more and more into that weakness as they're hedging it. Now, this is not in itself crazy because it's going to roll midday today. And so it's much more likely it's going to cause massive volatility where we could potentially be down 100+ points in the morning. And then as it rolls and the dealers have to cover a lot of those short hedges, then we could see a 100 S&P point rally in the afternoon. Now, that is just going to be a lot of intraday volatility. Right now at a 24 VIX, we're talking about an implied daily range of about 84 S&P points, so highlighting just simply that 100-point swing in either direction of the markets is already implied. And so strap on seatbelts. It's going to be very volatile in both directions. Don't think that this is just going to be one directional on the short term. So like if I break this to a 1 hour chart, here I'll put it on the cash index. 4 hour on the cash, on the futures. What I want to highlight is we could have a scenario where this market dumps 100 points further in the morning, and then from let's say that much lower level at 5450 could end up be at 5600 on a market bounce. that kind of intraday volatility is totally possible. Now, the point is let's talk a bigger picture, because as of this afternoon and going to tomorrow, that dealer volatility is gone. What we do have very distinctly is a primary downtrend. We specifically all week have been last week calling for the bounce to fail in that 58 to 5900 level along that 50-day. It basically came right in there and sold. Right now, the market continues to follow the script and the analog almost perfectly of this kind of two-leg decline. And therefore, the downside risk remains very clear, which is that, and we have a number of these previous lows like here and here. And the reason I like to highlight them, because a lot of times psychologically traders are watching key support lines to see if there's a reaction. So therefore, as they approach them, you always want to see if there's a shift in the flows of the stocks. So with these targets, the measured move on the downside of this breakdown over the course of the week, you can see measures as low as 5,200. But we could even, if there was a true like extended measure move, we could see 5,000 even printed if this thing really accelerated. I don't think that happens necessarily all today, unless this morning is just like a capitulation puke in the markets that just has like a mini crash. And not always, by the way, it's possible, but it shouldn't be your base case that that's going to happen. But the market in the sequence over the next 2 to 3 weeks, coming down into these zones, would almost certainly be a logical place for this market to drop on that. If this analog works out, and this is why we give these updates on a regular basis, that will solidify a swing low that will last probably a month or two. And and if we got down there, it would almost certainly would be a short-term buying opportunity on there. So right now we're fully hedged up. We're going to try to profit from some of this downside impulse. But the key will be is that when this thing really gets to a puke point, we want to cover a lot of that and then proceed to play some sort of a bounce. During Where's the Trade for members, I'll go through a lot of the different scenarios for all of you to kind of understand how to play this, which you can observe using the VIX. One of the things that we'll be looking for is, will there be like that grabbing at the vol premium as there is a market puke. Now, observe here during the yen carry trade unwind, we had like an enormous burst higher. Now, it didn't really go up to 64, but it was in the 40s actually on a sustained basis. But even the Christmas a little scare that happened in the markets over here saw a quick, rapid one-day jump on the upside. Well, the point I'm making is that what would be a real tell for me when we're getting close to a swing low at a key support line is, are we seeing there being a puke in the markets that causes volatility blowout on the upside, something way north of 28 up into the 30s on a short-term basis. If we saw something like that, that would cue to me that maybe some sort of a swing low may be developing. We'll talk about as well in the membership just some of the bigger bear market scenarios that could develop if this plays out. Okay, so that's I wanted to go much deeper today into just the equity markets and these risks and these levels for all of you to track. So let me just give everyone a quick rundown. Dollar, not much to say than our views from the past, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that today. I want to touch on gold, though, up another $30. We could now see some of this more parabolic move. So our target was 3,200, this 31.50 to 32. So we actually are completing a lot of these measured moves. And to me, that in itself increases my desire to want to hedge this up. I'm not actually going to sell my gold positioning, but we talked a lot about what are the levels to want to collar things in and to lock in some of the gains through option strategies. Well, up here, my interest level of hedging up the gain and locking in the gains with hedges is starting to pique my interest. But one of the things that is going to be a delicate kind of tightrope to watch it really feels like gold is accelerating. And sometimes in the final phase, it has almost like a burst higher that is like a parabolic rise that tacks on $100 in a day or some crazy thing. We'll be watching to see if there's some sort of indication of that kind of an impulse, and that would almost be certainly something I want to take advantage of. Crude oil just bounced to that 69.70 zone, maybe even an impulse to 72 is possible. The bigger question is, will this prove to be the low of oil? I'm still cautious. Not that I think that the lows of oil are likely to come in this range. And in the bigger context, when oil starts being bullish, these levels are going to be price levels you probably want to own. The thing is that right now, though, oil's not being bulled and it's not being largely accumulated in any big way. And so there's lots of vulnerability in this market condition for this to still go for a retest of the lows, still even temporarily break below them just to wash out some stop losses of those people that have been buying this dip. There's a lot of kind of noise that can develop. But I do think in the second quarter of the year, if this bases properly, we should be getting some good buy signals on crude oil in that period. I wanted just want to quickly touch silver, bullish, but not getting a lot of the tailwind this morning from gold. We'll see whether at the market open, whether that really kicks in. I want to just touch on a couple of things, like copper put in a swing high. We'll see whether or not this is bought on dip or whether the short-term high has already been established here. Overall, it completed a number of the measured moves, actually not completed, exceeded the measured moves on the upside. So to me, this is there isn't much reason to remain short-term bullish. What I want to see is how the consolidations look and how everything settles in before making another big call. One of the big observations that has to be continued to watch is that there's a huge divergence between COMEX copper and the LME copper, largely because a lot of the copper demand in the U.S. is coming from front-running the tariffs, which has put a substantial premium. If that buying kind of settles in, mean reversion back to global copper prices might make the pullback even a little more temporarily violent. And so at this stage, I'm not that eager to want to keep pressing the copper trade. I do think that this is a buy on dip on nat gas, though. And I think that this flagging formation, this is the UNL, which is the ETF for the 12-month strip. I think you can continue to be bullish this for further upside gains. I want to just touch on quickly Treasury bonds. First, I'm going to start with SOFR futures. You can see this flagging formation bullishly turning up. Those that don't understand SOFR futures, think of it this way. When this is rising, the market is pricing in more rate cuts from the Fed throughout the next year. And so let's say if this shot up to, and think of it a reciprocal of how many basis points it moves is how much additional interest rate cuts that are coming. You want to think that if this thing jumps to 97 on the upside, let's say up to here, they would be pricing in 2 more rate cuts by Powell this year. And I think at this stage, we could definitely get this breakout coming. And what you can also observe is that on all bonds, look at the way the 30-year bond came into the Fibonacci zone, was perfectly bought on dip, and looking for a breakout here on the upside. I think we can have a big rip on the long bond here on the short term. The point here, so yeah, we'll continue to watch this, but remaining bullish these bonds is something that I am continuing to look to play, and I'm already positioned in this, and I think the continuation here is good. The last thing I want to touch on, junk bonds failed. This is the canary in the coal mine to me. To confirm, so higher volatility back into the 20s. Junk bonds failed to do nothing more than a bounce to the fib zone and roll over. We're in some form of a bear phase here in the markets that has to be respected. Finally, I just wanted to touch on some very fast on the global equities. Nikkei, clear breakdown. This we have full-on selling here, very weak price action. Expect this to continue to be very weak. The Euro stock as well failed to break out back over here to a new high, and now broke down the lows from March, so from mid-March. Overall, I like that thesis that the euro stock can outperform the U.S. equity markets. It makes sense at the higher level, but overall, when we are in some form of risk off impulse, the idea that the euro stock was going to be able to rally while the rest of the world is selling is just not something that's a logical thing to bet on. Overall, there should be some weakness here if the rest of the markets are going through a very challenging period. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. We'll continue conversation during the Where's the Trade webinar. We'll give you all greater detail. And those of you listening to the complimentary version of this, you can get these every single day by signing up for the Macro Outlook. Thanks, everyone.